Good afternoon all. Hope the lunch was good, and I'll keep this as brief as is possible, and I'll also try to take a few questions from your side. Given that you've all had lunch right now, I know this session can be a bit heavy. I'll keep this quick from our side. So the fund administration in GIFT is very unique in propositions in terms of what your clients will require. It requires a global approach, but also requires a very deep knowledge of what has already happened in India in terms of the fund industry, which basically means you need to have a very good experience in terms of SEBI domiciled funds, and at the same time you need to know what global patterns exist. Now this is where a player like us comes into picture, primarily because we have done SEBI funds for over the last 20 years now. We were there before the AIF 2012 Act came into picture. We did the VCF funds, and then we also have continued into the AIF 2012 regulation. So that experience clubbed with our global presence. So if you look at our global presence, we are administrating or servicing close to 7,000 plus funds. I think the overall assets under service would have exceeded about $500 billion at this point in time. And this is global. So there's India, there is the European zone, whether it be Ireland, Luxembourg, whether it be UK, whether it be the US, whether it be domiciles such as Israel, which is very niche. Not every fund manager has their presence, fund administrator has their presence over there. So you have Israel, you have the GCC zone, whether it be Bahrain, whether it be Dubai, and of course there's Singapore, and there is Mauritius, where we have our presence and where all these funds get serviced from. The topic that we sort of zeroed down on is how tech enables fund administration and deep tech enables fund administration. And with that being the fulcrum of this discussion, this slide or this page becomes very crucial because we are SOC 1 Type 2, and recently we have also received our, this is the older deck, we have also received our ISO certification, so ISO 27001. Now this is very different. I mean the approach itself is very different because not many fund administrators would have even the SOC 1 Type 2. Now we have a SOC 1 Type 2 for more than a decade now. We started off in 2011 when it was SSAE 70. From there to doing, when it was SAS 70. From there to doing SSAE 16, SSAE 18. We've been completely in that zone. And more recently in the last year or so, we've also got our ISO certification. So that just went live about I think 2 weeks ago. Now this is very different, and this is why we always claim to be tech enabled. You will see very few fund administrators who will have an ISO 27001 certification, because ISO 27001 is for the IT infrastructure. And that leads me to the next point. This is our global board and the management team. Now this is pretty much the offerings that you're looking at. Typically, and even now, when it comes to alternate funds, whether it be Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, which is basically private equity, venture capital, angel, that is Cat 1, Cat 2, and Cat 3, which is hedge funds, the approach is that most of the things are done manually, right? And why is there this requirement to do things manually? The requirement is there because the thesis of every fund, or the aim or the strategy of every fund is very niche, it's very different, and hence the way money is accepted from the investors and the way money is sent back, I mean the returns are given to the investors, is very different. Now no software system can enable this customization, no third party software system can enable such customization, and that is where I think we saw this trend coming long time back. And since 2012 we have been operating on our own platform called EPE and Investor Portal. Now EPE is a very dynamic, robust product which completely automates all investor level allocations. Now whether that be capital calls, distributions, subscriptions, redemptions, waterfalls, high watermark, your unit statements, all of that. This approach has led to much better accuracy, has led to much better turnaround times as far as our clients are concerned, and also ensures that there's a lot of dependability on our services. And this is a very distinct approach from what most of the other administrators do, where most of the operations or most of the calculations are quite manual. This whole approach has gone to such a level right now that the investor portal, we have launched our 5th version of the investor portal, and in that investor portal it's a complete life cycle for the investors, right from the time they're onboarded till the time the unit statements, everything are sent out, and till the time the exits on the fund happen. It takes care of the entire need that an investor would have, and all the communications that do come onto this investor portal are coming from the automated system EP, which does all the calculations and which takes care of all the statement generations that are required. Now, the investor portal again is very, very user friendly, especially from a institutional LP perspective, and I would take 2 minutes to explain what I mean over there. A typical institutional LP will have 3 to 8 entities of theirs coming across multiple funds of the fund manager. Now, the typical or the old school approach would be to give one login for every fund, for every entity of the institutional LP. So if I take 4 institutional LPs across 4 funds, you're talking of 16 logins. Now what we have done is we have completely changed this mapping, and we have given, let's say there's a CFO from the institutional LP side with one login. Using multiple permutation combinations, they can access the different funds that different entities from their side have invested into. Further, the investor portal also gives you the ability to define very, very linear and non-linear access rights in terms of your legal team getting some access, in terms of your CFO getting some access, so on and so forth. Now the advantage over here is that all the calculations, including something like a 1065 and a K1 PIFIC, which typically every other fund administrator would outsource, we have it in-house. And then all those calculations which come from our internal system are directly hosted onto the investor portal once the fund manager approves. So there is no slip that could happen in this entire process. It's a complete hands-off process once the reviews have been completed from both our side as well as the fund manager's side. And this is where we are really sort of changing the tide. Now this is one area that I think is very good. Secondly, if you look at it, you have something like investor onboarding. It's a very difficult task. It's not easy. It's very complicated, and if you take the investor onboarding in India, in GIFT, you need to have a very deep understanding of how investors are onboarded on the SEBI platform and how investors are differently onboarded onto a GIFT platform. For example, you need very, very stringent CFT checks. You need to check the sanction list. You need to do stringent UBO tests. You need to have global AML KYC checks, PEP checks in GIFT. And through the onboarding form that we have digitized on the investor portal, all of this gets covered in literally one go. So when the investor is onboarded, everything from the application form to FATCA UBO checks to global One World checks, everything is covered. And what this enables is you don't have to go back to the investors and again and ask for KYC documents, ask for any updates from their side, and that leads to a huge satisfaction as far as the investor is concerned, especially if it's an LP who is an institutional LP, because they like that kind of one-stop approach, which you take all the data that you need and you do all the checks that you need to do right at the beginning. You don't keep going back to them and hassling them for every tiny bit of information that you're looking for. Now the digital onboarding platform is actually run by one of our patented products called Basiz Master Draft. Basiz Master Draft is what we would call something slightly disruptive tech, because it is not just about onboarding investors. It is a contract automation software, contract automation as well as contract management software. So it will enable you to generate, to draft, and also manage a legal contract, right? So you'll have, typically if you do a legal contract on something like say Word or let's say a Google Doc, you will face a lot of issues in version control. Whereas in this you will not face version controls, because there are 2 stages in which it works. First, it is released internally, which means the in-house counsels can access it. Once the in-house counsels access it, they put all their comments, all of that is sorted out, it is released to the external parties. Typically what happens in a legal contract is there are 2 types of negotiations. One is the legal negotiation and one is the commercial negotiation. And because both of these happen separately on separate teams and platforms, you might end up in a situation where you have a whack on both sides, which is you give away something on the legal side as well as on the commercial side. But because it's an integrated platform with a virtual negotiation room, you're literally able to track who has done what change, and you will very easily with a dashboard be able to understand what you have given away on the legal side and what you have given away on the commercial side. This is backed by another facility called the clause locking facility. So if you take typically a 30 clause agreement, you'll realize that you negotiate on probably 8 to 9 clauses. The rest of the 21, 22 clauses can be locked and shown on a separate screen with only these 8 to 9 clauses which are being actively negotiated. Now this narrows down the focus and ensures that the client, our client, is not missing any point from their side. This is the approach that we have brought to fund administration as well, and this digitization that we have brought about has really helped us with our clients, whether it be on the investor onboarding side or whether it be in later stages when we track deals for them and when we do their portfolio reporting. In GIFT, these are some of the services that we cover. I spoke about the typical fund administration services. I think the tax services that we cover are very, very unique because we cover India, Singapore, US. We do FATCA services, and all of this is in-house. We don't outsource any of this. We have in-house capability to handle this, and we have been doing it for 2 decades now. So that is really, I think, an attraction that we have. When we started our GIFT office, we started back in 2019. So we started our office in April of 2019. So we've been here for 5 years now. And our managing director made a lot of suggestions in the start. And we were also one of the first administrators to be licensed in GIFT. And over a period of time, we have also built a product called the Basiz People Services, where we provide talent acquisition, talent management, services to our clients in GIFT. And this is very vital from a GIFT perspective because there's a huge talent requirement as far as GIFT is concerned. And I think with the recent platform fund concept, this service will be further required. In GIFT, we also hold an FME license because we want to, at some point in time in the near future, launch our own platform fund. There are some queries that we have which we are ironing out at this point in time. And I think the ecosystem in GIFT is really building onto something that's very robust. And this is not just for the fund. You look at even things like ship leasing and aircraft leasing. GIFT is really turning out to be a domicile which is sought after in multiple ways. The regulator also is very, very agile in terms of hearing the voices of people who are in the ecosystem over here. And I think that is why you would have seen that the regulation in GIFT has really become very lean over a period of 2-3 years. It's been progressive, but really good progress has been seen in the last 2 to 3 years in that zone. And I think with all of this in the background, it really places GIFT in a very favorable position in terms of a lot of global offshore domiciles. And I think we will be much more active in terms of what we do in GIFT as compared to any of the offshore domiciles which are currently at play right now. So we have about, I think, 6 odd minutes. Any of your queries? I think I have given an overview of what we do and how we do. With 6 odd minutes, I would like to take how many ever questions I can in this space and answer any possible questions that you guys have.
Fund as a service, is that getting enabled at GIFT, which is obviously available in other jurisdictions?
Very good question, sir. The concept of fund as a service, I remember our MD and founder talking about many years back when GIFT started, 3-4 years back when GIFT IFSC started, and it's been the request for a very long time. In fact, when the official notice did come, I think it was July 2nd, I was at a venture event in Bangalore, and I remember because I was on the panel that asked me a question on this. It is the need of the hour. There are a few provisions within that. I don't want to go into that detail right now. I can take it offline, which we have also gone back, which I think need to be amended to make it, a concept that can fly. Just a few points which are a bit sticky at this point in time, but it's a great initiative because any fund manager who's looking at GIFT for an initial exposure would take that route, and that will really improve the flow of money in and out of GIFT. So it's a real it's what you typically call a VCC in Singapore, or a PCC VCC structure in Mauritius. So it's absolutely the need of the hour. There are a few things that we have written back or we have sort of suggested. If that can be ironed out, and if those questions can be ironed out along with a few tax angles to it, I think it's a real deal closer for GIFT. Anyone else?
How does this system help someone like a distributor who registers himself in GIFT to service the clients and the institutions which he's acquiring?
So let us say you are a distributor, just giving a very broad example, right? And you have enlisted 10 of your clients or a PMS structure, whatever the structure is. We will give you a very specific access where you can see the statements, the activities, the inflow and outflow of cash from your investors onto the platform. So it becomes a dashboard oriented platform that you can monitor the activities of your client from. And we can customize this in such a way that you can have this access across all the funds to whom you have onboarded your clients to.
Can you also elaborate on the contract creation part, which the lady outside was, explaining to me? Because that's not really very clear as to how the system writes the contracts, which normally is entered with the client, and they're basically client specific.
Correct.
You can't be having one contract defining for all.
So typically, what happens is there are depending upon which fund you're sort of evangelizing for lack of better words, which fund you're distributing. The fund manager will have a template, right? The system is flexible. You can sort of draft it from the scratch, or you can take a template. Once you have taken a template, as I said, you can use a clause locking facility where you lock, let's say a majority of the clauses, because there's going to be no argument on that front. And then you can keep open the 8 or 10 clauses where there are going to be negotiations and make the amendments as you want. And the amendments can happen in two phases. One is an internal amendment and then release it to the counterparty. So you can do it both ways. You can draft it from scratch because the system has learning capabilities within it, so it will make suggestions to you, or you can take a template and then build on it. Both ways work.
This question which I'm now going to ask you is purely from an educational point of view, that I'm registered, very recently I've been registered as a distributor here.
Okay.
So is it a mandatory requirement for me to enter into a contract with every client which I acquire?
From a distributor's perspective?
Yes.
You will have to have an agreement with every client. So you will have typically your client will typically have two agreements. One is your agreement with the client, and the second is the fund or
Correct.
the platform that you are sort of subscribing them to. So there will be two agreements that they have to sort of work on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, hi, Seshav this side.
Yeah.
So how you see the stablecoin as a legal tender, supposed to approve in GIFT, and secondly, as you guys are as a fund is a service, so are you in the future open for take a stable coins as a I would say as a real money?
In 2016, we did a cryptocurrency fund back in 2016, right? So we have done, I think over our course, we have done about 12 or 14 cryptocurrency funds. So we do have an exposure to that. Now with regards to whether we will accept stable coins as means of payment or as means of accepting money from the investors, that is something that we have to see, because it is something that the regulator has to approve. And if the regulator approves it, it's a stable coin or a Bitcoin, whatever you call it. These are based on blockchain systems. And in fact, if you look at the board of directors, Dr. Sujata is a PhD doctorate in blockchains. So we have the capabilities, we are building some tools on that. And unfortunately today the situation is such that on the tech side, AI is pretty much the discussion point everywhere. And people have sort of they don't focus as much on blockchains and distributed ledgers, as they would call it. And if that happens, then onboarding investors, taking money, giving back money, that will be it'll be very, very convenient. But it's very difficult because a lot of governments are involved, a lot of well-established machineries are involved. So I don't know whether it will come to life, but at some point it has to. It's a disruptive sort of idea, so it will come when the governments shake hands on it. Thank you so much.